weekend. Thank you so much for joining. And is it still too late to say compliment of the season? May this year be a good, rewarding, and happy year for us all. Okay, we just want to talk quickly about Biola Adebayo's show, Talk to Be, where she tagged it tribute and, decided to review what they thought the online space or the world to know about Orwell's demise. 27th of December 2025, we remain a date that family, friends, loved ones, fans of Orwell will always remember. And so I would like to encourage us, after watching this podcast, to please take a moment to go to Talk to Be's platform on YouTube, excuse me, where she did, the show. I've watched the full show, and so I want to pick some points from the show. According to the neighbors, to Orwell's neighbor, who was around on that Saturday, she said around 1 p.m. she got a call on her phone from Orwell, who called her to please come downstairs to help her, that she wasn't feeling well. And the neighbor of hers says normally she doesn't stay at home. She, neighbor, doesn't stay at home at the weekend. But she was just fortunate to be at home that day with her husband. And so when Orwell called, she quickly went downstairs and knocked. Orwell wasn't opening the door. She now went around. I think maybe Orwell lives downstairs, because she said she went around to where a window is, and peeping in, she saw that Orwell was not wearing anything. NAKED. And so, but she said she was coming to open the door. So she said she went back to the door area and knocked and still knocked. Orwell said she was coming, not speaking like the usual self, was like speaking out of pain and all of that. And that they stood at the door for over 30 minutes. And they were telling Orwell that, Sheka Jalekun, should we, break down the door? And Orwell responded from inside quite weakly to say, no, Emma Jalekun, Mawa Shilekun. Okay, so they said eventually, Orwell, apparently she was putting on something because she wasn't wearing anything. She was putting on something on herself. But unfortunately, what she was putting on was a short gown. Like, you know how we women wear some very loose things at home? Yeah, so, but it was very, very short. It wasn't what, she would have ordinarily worn. So while all that was going on, as they entered, she was already gasping for breath. And so the drama started. Okay, how do we get you to the hospital? How do we... So the neighbor said she told her son, please go and bring bed sheet from my house. Let's wrap her around it. Oh yeah, until we'll stand up. Let's take you to the car, And as they were trying to lift her, because of course one or two people cannot lift her, because she was already very weak. She said she ran out of the compound to call people around to please come and help. And, when the people came, she couldn't even use her legs anymore. She wasn't able to. She wasn't mobile anymore. She was so weak. So they had to find how to carry her, lift her literally to her car. So when they carried her, the neighbor said it took six people to lift her into her car. Now, when people want to pass away like that, when it's like life is moving out of the body becomes heavier. And by physical appearance, Allwell was a big woman. She's big, bold, and beautiful. So that the struggle was how the 6 people getting her into the vehicle. They got her into the vehicle. I think they went to one hospital or second one or whatever. They shall go to a hospital where she was attended to immediately. According to the neighbors, when all those were happening, they were calling her family members. I'll still come into that because I think 2 family members also talked to B yesterday. So they got to the hospital. They said immediately they gave her oxygen. She was attended to. It wasn't a case of neglect or anything. That for about 1 hour, everything seemed to be okay. Like maybe she was stabilized or something. She was well attended to. That was the point the neighbor was saying, that hospital attended well to her. And as at that time, we were calling everybody, calling her brother, calling her cousin, calling her family members and everybody to be like, Allwell is not well low, she's in the hospital and everything, in the midst of all those chaos, fear and everything. The neighbor said even to drive her out of the compound was that the man, maybe her husband, could not even drive. He was so afraid that she didn't even know where her own strength came from, that she summoned courage to drive. You know how it is that your neighbor who you still spoke with the day before, who is not sick, all of a sudden gasping for breath, like life was going out of her and everything. So an hour or so later, after the treatment commenced, she was pronounced gone. So at that time, family and friends that were being called one Furigbaraun, the venue. Now let me go to her cousin. There was a male person interviewed who happens to be her cousin, and he mentioned that it was in one occasion, like a party somewhere in Alausa. And when he was called, it was like, okay, Mabo, like Taib Ologun called him to say, your cousin Allwell is not feeling well. She's in the hospital. Please come. So immediately he left the hospital, and there was traffic. It was a Saturday, I think the last Saturday before Christmas. Yes. There were a lot of weddings, parties going on around that Ikeja, Lausa axis where the cousin was. So to navigate to get to Ijufagba, where the hospital was, the traffic was bad. And he was thinking that, calls were coming in from left, right, and center. And was thinking she was in a critical condition. Maybe they would need blood and everything. So he was really hurrying to get there. So when he got there, she was already gone. So he recounted how they grew up together. He said though they are cousins, like first cousins, that they grew up literally in the same house, that they lived in the same house for 20 years. There are some cousins you have that you're raised together. Unlike now that one cousin will be in Australia, another one will be in the UK, another one will be in Oshogbo. So they were raised together. So they have that bond. They grew together. They know each other. They, he talk about the good times they've had, how she will be there she was there for his wedding. She was there for his 2 children's christening. And everything major that he had to do, she was always there. And that most times when she comes over to his house, that she comes to sleep. Like when your big auntie comes over to your house to sleep for a day or 2. And that in his own head, he has 2 children. He was thinking that when his children grow a bit, when you have like 2 years old, 1 year old, 4 years old, they're still very dependent. That he's been thinking that when his children grow up a bit and they are quite independent and won't be too much stress on Allwell, he would have loved to be taking them to Allwell's house to spend like a week or maybe a holiday or something. That Allwell was a roving ambassador. That's how he called her. They are. Auntie Allwell, I want a roving ambassador of the family. Because, she wasn't married. She doesn't have children. So, but she loves her family. She loves her friends. So she will say, okay, I'm coming to your house, Boye. Yes, I think this cousin of ours is called Boye. Boye, I'm coming to your house, and this is what I will eat, And she will come spend 2 days, then go to her mom's house, spend 2 days, go to Kinikon's house, because she was trying to make the best out she could from life. You know, when a woman is grown to the point of 49 years, no husband, no child, it is not rice and beans in this our economy, in this our society. And that woman is successful. Because Allwell is successful as an actress, a producer, and a director. In fact, she's a director par excellence. Because Saheed Balogun, who was also part of this tribute video, narrated how Allwell came to him many years ago to say, "Ọ̀gá, mo fẹ́ kọ́ṣẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ yín." And he said he asked her, "Iṣẹ́ wo lo fẹ́ kọ́?" She said, "Gbogbo nǹkan tẹ́ bá lè kọ́ mi." So Allwell was so creative and so focused on what she wanted to do, that so being an actress, producer, director, with the guidance of Saheed Balogun. So Saheed said he's always proud that Allwell was not his first protege, that he had like 2 or 3 people he had trained that are like seniors to Allwell in his own academy, but Allwell is the one that has stood out. Okay, so that was his cousin saying good things about her and everything. So another cousin of hers was also interviewed. I can't remember her name. She's female. I think she said she's 51. This cousin is 51 years old. And that they also grew up together, also like first cousins. But that they've fallen out for some time now, that something happened between both of them. And that she said she tried a lot to reach out to her at that time. She will call her, Allwell will not pick the call, Allwell will not respond to her. And so she also left her. And that when the cousin was celebrating her 50th birthday, that she didn't bother inviting Allwell, because since Allwell has not been picking her call after they fell out, she just let things slide. That even people kept asking her, where is your sister? Is your sister not going to come for your birthday? Or why didn't she come? And all of that. So regrettably, you know how it is that nobody knows where anybody ma jáde láyé níjọ́ báyìí. And I think that's one or two things that we as the living can always speak. I'm Mama Sherawani, but Kolon fún wa lẹ́mìí ìdáríjì. Because in life things happen. We fall out with our siblings, with our friends, with our colleagues and everything. She also mentioned that later on, Allwell later called her, but that she did not pick. So, in their relationship, with all the ulabalu that they had, they fell out. Cousin was calling. Allwell was not picking. She had her 50th birthday. She didn't invite Allwell. Afterwards, Allwell now called her. Then she did not pick. Because in her mind, she's like, for a long time, told Damilo, you know those kind of ija ife. So I just thought to just mention that, because that's his reality. At the point when some people give up, there's one person that you might not be having the most, good time with that person at that time. Okay, so those were 2 family members that were interviewed. And one of the other person is a childhood friend who they said they lived in Pangrove together, a man. He said of how he wanted to Yahweh when he was called that day that Allwell was rushed to the hospital. He said that he was sobbing, weeping and everything. He mentioned the good memories they had together, how Allwell is very blunt, very playful. And I think across the people that even spoke, because Saheed Balogun also talked about her, that Allwell became a family member. Allwell became the head of his acting academy. That even when Saheed went into politics, Allwell would say, "Ọ̀gá, tẹ́ bá lọ sí politics, ṣe mọ̀ pé wọ́n ní fẹ́ pè yín ṣeré mọ́. But some other people, àwọn èèyàn wọ̀ bá pè yín ṣeré, I will call you, and the other people that you train will call you to feature in our movies." That Allwell was so selfless. And even when Allwell is directing a movie and maybe invites Saheed over, that Allwell will sit down and say, "Ọ̀gá, ó yá, ẹ máa ṣiṣẹ́ yìí. that she's extremely humble. She's playful. In fact, everybody, if you see her videos at that time, it's always about having fun, laughing, gisting, taking pictures. You know, she has a very large heart. Life has shown her shaggy. We all know the story. Exactly 20 years ago, December 9th, when her fiance was spied by armed robbers while he was on the phone with her. Until for 2 years after that time, she was in great depression, you know, so it took her time. Maybe it was that time that she now started having BP, you know, or maybe it's the weight, whatever it is. So according to Biola Bayo, Biola said, ask the neighbor to say, okay, what do you know about her health? And the neighbor said, Allwell told us that she has high BP, and she told us that she's pre-diabetic. And I think those are the two main things. So that whenever she has injuries, you know, maybe injury on her leg, immediately she use first aid, it heals up fast. So they know what it is that she's battling with, and they also help out. That even Orwell is always telling people that when people are like, oh well, you are living alone, this and this, that she will say, that she will tell people that I have very good neighbors, I'm in good hands, nothing will happen to me. The neighbor could not help but shed tears, you know, to be like, is it that she didn't do enough on that day? Is it that she wasn't fast enough? Could there have been, maybe she would have, you know, knocked down the door by force, despite the fact that Orwell told her, now we know this kind of thing is not just about Nigeria. Even abroad, I think it's even more prevalent abroad. Táwọn èèyàn máa kú sínú ilé, tó máa wọlé, tó ní jáde. Maybe òórùn làwọn neighbors máa gbọ́ pé what is smelling from this apartment. Or maybe when colleagues at work are calling and there's no response, that why is somebody so person not at work? They will now go and jalekun. They will now find the person as spy in the house. According to Biola, Biola said she is aware that Orwell had asthma, that Orwell is an asthmatic patient, that she feels it was the asthma attack that finally left her gasping for breath, which still makes sense. She said even when they're on set and there's dust, Orwell will run away from the place. Komaloni attack. That those that are close to her know that she's not supposed to be where there is dust. And that, didn't she tell the neighbors that she had asthma? The neighbor said no, that she never mentioned having asthma. And she didn't even, you know, as she was gasping for breath, she didn't say asthma, or she didn't say, oh, I better inhaler, so I want you more. Maybe if those ones have known, you know, those ones know that she's pre-diabetic and she has HBP because she had told them before. Maybe if she has also told her neighbors that she's asthmatic, so people she gaps for breath, yeah, they will immediately, it will occur to them that, oh, she's asthmatic. Maybe giving her an inhaler at that time could have helped. But she mọ̀ pé death has a way of holding something. Ẹlòmíì lè mú mi lásán kó wúkọ́ kó gbabẹ̀ lọ. Now she's gone. She's gone to sleep. Rotimi Salami also was interviewed by Talk to Be. In fact, in the studio, it had Rotimi Salami, it had Ambassador Said Balogun, and of course, Talk to Be on our program. Rotimi mentioned how they met, how people assumed so many things happening between them. She never cared. She was always about, Rotimi, you're going to do well. Rotimi, you're going to be the best. Rotimi, I believe in you. That Orwell believed in her more than he believed in himself. He was weeping. And that they are planning the foundation. And the foundation is planning to, it was Rotimi's suggestion to, you know, do a legacy foundation, Allwell Ademola Legacy Foundation. And when Rotimi brought up the idea and shared with Biola and Said, they agreed. And when they also proposed it to the family said no problem. And that Nigerian entertainment industry really stood well for Allwell. So in this situation, you can see nobody is saying, I want Nollywood Odasi. No. They did well. They mentioned the DGN, Atampan, ANTP, Kiniko, that they stood and contributed money. That even is from the money that they spent for all the things they did, and they still have money remaining, which is what they want to use to kickstart the Allwell Ademola Legacy Foundation. They mentioned that they plan getting maybe a land or a building where they will have an artist school where they will teach people acting, producing, and directing, because that is what Allwell has always done in their life. And hopefully train people free of charge. There are a lot of veterans in the industry I've told them that, okay, whenever you need me to come and train people in our legacy school, let me know. I will come to do it free of charge. It is, thank you for the love. I can see the love sign. Thank you so much. What we can gather is that Allwell lived a very impactful life. Ká kú ní kékeré kó yẹ ẹni, ó sàn ju ká dàgbà rádaràda lọ. Ẹlòmíì á dàgbà di 100, ó máa sọ lóko pa ni. Ẹlòmíì á dàgbà di 70 years, ó máa bẹ́tọ́ sórí cups ẹ̀ ni pé ìyá àjẹ́. But nobody has even spoken or said anything bad about this woman. Not because she's perfect, but she's a good person. She has good energy. Kò jealous àwọn kan pé àwọn kan ló ń ṣe kinní kan. And because her work is basically behind the scenes. When Said Balogun was mentioning, and Rotimi were mentioning the movies, both cinema movies and YouTube movies, that Allwell has just finished. And the one she has done before, Emma Lano, you won't know she was the one behind the scene. Because she's not even a proud woman. She had a heart of a child. And she's able to carry herself well. Bó ṣe tóbi tó yẹn, ó ń gbé ara ẹ̀ dáadáa, ó ń lift ara ẹ̀ dáadáa. So what else is left to say? They are calling on well-meaning Nigerians to please, that when they open the GoFundMe, they are here to open it, that they open the GoFundMe for Nigerians to please contribute so that they can do the Allwell Ademola Legacy Foundation. So please watch out on Rotimi Salami's page, or Said Balogun's page, or Biola Bayo's page. When the GoFundMe is open, I'm sure they are going to share the link, and we, the good people of Nigeria and diaspora, will contribute our own quota. Because one thing you cannot take away from that woman is she lived well. Biola burst to tears when she was rounding up. Of course, in the middle, she burst to tears, but at the end, she really, really, she was in her feelings. When she mentioned that, Shebi, we know that there's no child. She didn't leave any child behind. That she never had any child. That this legacy is something we can always remember her for. Yoruba will say, bó bá bímọ, ọmọ ló máa ṣe é. Bó bímọ, ọmọ ló máa ṣe é. What other prestigious thing was missing from the demise to the burial? Ẹlòmíì tó bímọ gan kò yẹ tó yẹn. Ẹ mọ̀ pé the good book also said, a máa mú olódodo lọ síwájú ọjọ́ ibi. Bóyá Ọlọ́run ò fẹ́ kó tàràkà. Bóyá Ọlọ́run ò fẹ́ kójú ẹ̀ ráre. Bóyá Ọlọ́run ò fẹ́ kí àtáàkì tó ṣe, bóyá heart attack ni. Ọlọ́run ò fẹ́ kó sọ ọ́ di stroke mọ́ lọ́wọ́, kó máa gbé dìgbàdìgbà káàkiri. Ọlọ́run ò fòkú ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ sí. Because this was a woman who still posted within 24 hours. Tó kọrin pé this year, you know that last video on our page. So this year we not see the end of us. I will never see the end of this year. Kinikon. So she had expectations. She did Christmas with us. But on the 27th, she was gone. So I would like to round this up to say, let us always have days of sober reflection. Let's speak the good things in people. Let's assess our own lives and do the best we can. Because you see this thing where they call pie, when it's ready for one person, wàláì kó wà lójú òun á mú ẹ lọ. Wàláì kó máa drive lọ́wọ́ tí kú bá dé, ó dé nìyẹn o. Wàláì kó máa rìn títì àbí kó máa jẹ fàájì, kó máa jẹ fried rice àti ẹran àti chicken, tí kú bá dé láti unplug ẹ̀mí yẹn, ó máa mú lọ ní o. Ọlọ́run ló ń pe rẹ̀ ní alápàdúpẹ́. But it's so sad that she has a mother. I can't imagine what that woman is going through. And I must say, yes, I don't want to forget. This summary, I think the program was, over 1 hour, 20 minutes. So I just picked some things. Like I said, please go to Talk to Me on YouTube and watch the full video. And I'm sure you're going to shed tears, because there was no way you're going to watch that video without shedding tears. So watch out for the foundation when they release the link to pay money, so that contribution can be made. And let's keep the memory of this woman alive. She was a good woman. She fought the fight of faith, and it was time to go. Bóyá asthma ló mú lọ o, bóyá heart attack ló mú lọ o, àsìkò ti tó láti lọlé. But it doesn't mean that as Nigerians we shouldn't always talk about our poor health facilities. But maybe tó bá yẹ pé medical facility wà, tí ambulance tó máa pé ambulance within 5-10 minutes tó máa wá gbéyàn. If, for example, when she was so much in pain, if she died, maybe our ambulance service, and it was sure it was going to get there in 5 minutes, she won't be able to tell the ambulance, pé ẹ má jálẹ̀kùn, àwọn yẹn má jálẹ̀kùn wọlé ni. Do you understand? So, but she's gone to rest. Àwa tó kù ní ká jẹ́ kí ikú báṣẹ́ rere mọ́ wa lọ́wọ́. Kọ́lọ́run má dẹ̀ ṣe ní àkúfà nínú ẹbí wọn àti nínú industry wọn. Káwa náà tá jẹ́ olólùfẹ́ wọn online, ká máa gbàdúrà fún wọn, káwa náà dẹ̀ ṣe jẹ́jẹ́. Nítorí pé tomorrow is not promised, but today that we have, let's live it well. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Sunday. Bye for now.